respected venerables, honored guests and friends. I'm very pleased and honored to have the opportunity to speak about what I have learned in cosmological physics and its link to Buddha's teaching about the universe. Venerable Master ZHONG have mentioned many times when he lectured on the Flower Adornment Sutra. He said that Buddhism is an education about the truth of the universe. And modern science has gradually verified what Buddha Shakyamuni taught in the sutras. These insightful statements have long triggered my interest in constructing the latest physics discoveries about the universe with the teachings in Buddha's teachings. I recently devoted some time in searching America's National Aeronautics and Space Administration's online literature, or NASA. And I have summarized some key discoveries about the universe. As you know, NASA, founded in 1958, is the world's leading research agency in aerospace and physics. Venerable Master ZHONG suggested that I present these scientific findings to the Pureland Learning College so that we can deepen our understanding about the truth of the universe. Modern cosmology attempts to describe how the universe started and developed. It is built upon Albert Einstein's theories of relativity and quantum mechanics. Most of the discoveries are derived from highly advanced mathematics and are quite difficult to comprehend for a person without sufficient mathematics and physics background. However, it is not necessary to cope with technical details of all these mathematical formulas. What are important here are the messages that emerge from the scientific research. I will elaborate below some key discoveries of space physics research, which appear amazingly similar to what Buddha Shakyamuni had taught 3,000 years ago. So here I would like to present three key messages derived from modern cosmology and quantum physics. These two areas have similar results to those teaching of the Buddha Shakyamuni about the universe. So next, I will try to use simple and easy to understand language to explain and avoid complicated mathematical equations, because I'm trying to present ideas, not research results in physics here. These three key messages are: the first, distance is not real and time is illusory. Secondly, things can be created from nothing. And finally, the origin of the universe. So my first topic is about the notion that distance is not real and time is illusory. To come up with this notion is not an easy task in physics. Although I de-emphasize the technicality of physics in this presentation, the proof of this notion has to rely on Albert Einstein's theory of relativity. Relativity is an outgrowth of Einstein's thoughts in the early 1990s about motion and gravity in a non-Newtonian framework. We know Newton's physics, especially in the realm of mechanics, works well in the dynamics of three-dimensional space, especially for Earth-sized bodies and smaller, and for the objects at velocities common to everyday experience. Einstein's relativity framework, however, is completely different. Instead of the absolute view of fundamental parameters, such as space and time, envisioned in Newtonian physics, space, time, energy, and mass can all vary in their perceived nature in a relative sense. The theory completely altered the direction of modern physics and provided a solid theoretical founding for cosmic research. Einstein was therefore regarded the father of modern science. Both the history of Einstein's discoveries and an excellent portrayal of how they affect cosmology are given in Amir Acesso's book entitled God's Equation, Einstein, Relativity, and the Explaining Universe, published by Dell Publishing in 1999. Because of this great scientific contribution, Einstein was awarded Nobel Prize in Physics in 1922 and was later selected by Time magazine in America as the man of the 20th century. A splendid biography of him entitled Einstein, The Life and Times by Ronan Clark, published by Avon Books in 1971, describes Einstein's contribution as a scientist and humanitarian. There are two stages of relativity theories. One is called special relativity, and the other is general relativity. Special relativity is applicable to objects that are traveling at uniform velocities. General relativity is concerned with the effects of accelerating velocities. His theory of special relativity was first published in a physics magazine in 1905. In the same issue of the journal, he also had significant papers on Brownian motion and on the photoelectric effect, for which he later, in 1922, was awarded Nobel Prize in Physics. Einstein, among other researchers, realized that physical properties should theoretically change by a great deal when their measurements are under conditions where the observer is traveling at high speeds relative to that of light. A simple relation between the length and speed of an object can be described in the following equation. That is, LV equals L0 times the square root of 1 minus V squared divided by C squared. Here, LV is the length of the moving object, and L0 is the length of an object that is standing still. And V here is the velocity at which the object is moving. And C is the light speed, which is approximately 300,000 kilometers per second. So this equation tells us that the length of an object which is moving is a proportion to the length of this same object when it's standing still. And the proportion is square root of 1 minus V squared divided by C squared. So as we can see, if the object is moving at very high speed, say approaching the light speed, then V squared divided by C squared is going to be 1, or close to 1. So if an object is moving at the speed of light, then this thing under the square root will vanish, will be 0. Therefore, the length of the object will be also 0. So in this case, theoretically, the length and the volume of any object could vanish under some condition. So for instance, using our common example, under some certain conditions, you will not see any distance between a nearby object, say the lecture hall here in Toowoomba, the Pureland College in Australia, and a distant object, say the White House in Washington, D.C. in the USA. So you won't see the difference in distance between these two objects. Or put it differently, under some conditions, you may be able to appear in the location in Washington, D.C. and the location here in Toowoomba, Australia. Or, in other words, you may be able to appear on the Earth and also on Mars at the same time, as the distance between the two objects, the Earth and Mars, vanishes. So Dr. Stan Aldenwald, NASA's space scientist, concludes that objects can be in many places at the same time. Therefore, distance is not real. This notion is consistent with Buddha Shakyamuni's teaching in the Infinite Life Sutra. In the sutra, Buddha said, "The Buddha does come without coming from anywhere. He lives, but without going anywhere. He was neither born, nor will he pass away." Another similar statement can be found in the Practices and Vows of Bodhisattva Universal Worthy of the Flower Adornment Sutra. It is said, "In each of the innumerable Buddha's lands, I manifested transformation bodies, as numerous as the number of fine dusts, in incalculable new numbers of Buddha lands." So we can see that the Buddha and Bodhisattva Universal Worthy have the ability to appear in infinite number of worlds at the same time. This ability can now be understood by modern physics. Regarding time, the theory of relativity also provides an intriguing viewpoint. A cornerstone premise in Einstein's physics is the constancy of light speed. That is, light travels at precisely 299,792 kilometers per second, or approximately 300,000 kilometers per second. And the light speed is the highest speed an object can attain in the universe. Nothing can travel faster than light. And scientists cannot prove this assumption, but simply take it for granted. So now let's just assume this assumption is true and look at the conclusion from relativity theory. Let's first consider a simple example in our daily life. Suppose we are walking in a fast-moving train. We feel that we are walking slowly inside the train, but an external observer sees that we are passing by him very fast, precisely at the train speed. This is because our relative speed is very low with respect to the train, but our relative speed is very high with respect to the external observer. Now let's suppose we occupy a spacecraft instead of a train, and the spacecraft is moving at extreme speed, say approaching the speed of light, apart from the Earth. And from the spacecraft, we use a special clock device to send forth a light signal in every second to an external observer on Earth. In a spacecraft passenger's eyes, the relative motion of the passenger within the spacecraft is that of standing still with respect to the spacecraft. In other words, the relative speed of the passenger with respect to the spacecraft is very low, approach to zero. But with respect to the external observer, the passenger is moving very fast apart from him, from the external observer. So for the rapidly moving spacecraft passengers, the clock on board seems to move normally without any change in the time length of a second. And for the external observers, they received light signal from the clock on this fast-moving spacecraft at a much longer time interval. The interval between seconds increase. This is because the speed of the light signal with respect to the Earth observer is lower than the absolute light speed. So that is, for the external observer on Earth, the clock on board appears to tell the time more slowly, so that time appears to stretch out. So in effect, for anyone moving at high relative speeds, time stretch out. This is called time dilation. Therefore, time is just an illusion. Theoretically, you may be able to stretch time from very short intervals to extremely long intervals without making any change to yourselves and your own objects. So in fact, we believe that Buddha has attained this level of ability. In the Infinite Life Sutra, for instance, it is said, the Buddha possesses unfathomable wisdom. He has no obstacles. In one single instant, he can dwell in innumerable billions of eons, but his body and all sense organs do not age. Why is it? Because the Buddha's concentration and wisdom are boundless and free of obstructions. So therefore, when we attain the ultimate bliss of Buddhahood, the fantastic ability comes naturally within us. Another excellent example of the time dilation effect is best illustrated by Einstein's twin paradox. Let's say if the above-mentioned spacecraft were to return Earth after 20 years. Of course, these 20 years are according to the Earth calendar. The passengers on these fast-moving spacecraft will have aged less than 20 years of the Earth's time. So let's suppose there are two twin brothers who are born on the same day. And after they were born, they were separated in this following manner. The ground twin remains on Earth, and the space twin takes a journey such as in the spacecraft that we described above. The ground twin now becomes 20 years older. And the space twin, upon return, appears to have aged, say, just 3 years, because time has shortened from 20 years to 3 years for the space twin. and his bodily functions in aging have proceeded more slowly. Let's take a step further. Theoretically, the space traveler sees his return as a step into the future, from 3 years old to 20 years old. And on the other hand, if time can be shortened to a 0 and then to a negative value, then the traveler, the spacecraft traveler, can somehow move backward in time from now to the present, from now to the past. So we believe this could be true, and in sutra, we know that Buddhas and Bodhisattvas are able to actually enter the infinite past or enter the infinite future at one single moment. As Bodhisattva Universal Worthy says in the Flower Adornment Sutra, he said, I can clearly behold the state of the future and combine all coming eons into one instantaneous thought. I can also penetrate all the eons of the past, the present, and the future at one single instant. To further illustrate this point, I want to cite an example from Buddhism literature, which is analogous to Einstein's twin brother paradox. Say there are, in the Buddha's sutra, it is said there were 3 brothers who practiced very hard in order to be reborn in the heaven and follow Bodhisattva Mila's teaching over there. These 3 brothers all promised to each other, whoever went to the heaven first should come back to notify the other 2 brothers on the ground. So after some years, one brother went to the heaven and never returned. Then a few years later, the second brother went to the heaven and then 3 years later returned to see his third brother on ground. The third brother asked him, why you took so long to return? The second brother denied. He said, no, I have been in the heaven for only a few moments. As soon as I pay my respect to Bodhisattva Mila, I return to see you. But when I come back, 3 years have passed on the ground. So from this example, we know that there is a big time dilation effect between the ground and the heaven. So we can see heaven as a different space-time of different dimensions. In summary, space and time are varying and illusory phenomena. Under some conditions, space and time can be changed completely. Indeed, the recent discovery of the black holes demonstrates this notion. According to NASA space scientists, space and time can reverse themselves in a black hole. This means that space becomes time-like, and time becomes space-like. What we call time does change to something with the mathematical properties we have normally associated with space, and vice versa. And the second topic I'd like to discuss today is that things can be created from nothing. Talking about this notion, let me first quote NASA astronomer Dr. Stan Odenwald's statement about the idea. He said, nature has over the years presented to us with many physical situations where our intuition about how things ought to behave has been shown to be absolutely false. For example, people age differently if they are moving. Space can dilate. Matter can be created out of pure energy. Matter can be created spontaneously out of vacuum. In this section, I want to present things can be created from nothing. Without spending too much time in explaining the mathematical formulas, we can borrow Einstein's conclusion of the principle of equivalence of mass and energy. That is, under certain conditions, energy can condense to mass. And conversely, mass can be convertible to energy. Let's look at this formula. This is the famous of the formulas Einstein proposed. The formula says the energy, E, is equal to the mass, m, times the light speed, c squared. This formula tells us that the mass can be converted into energy as long as you have enough speed in it. And vice versa, if we rearrange this formula, we can easily see that the mass is actually equal to energy divided by c squared. So in other words, with sufficient energy, you can create mass or matters. In fact, this mass-energy equivalence forms the basis of recovering huge amounts of energy by tapping into the nuclei of atoms. The energy released from the explosion of an atomic bomb is derived from this theoretical relationship. On the other hand, matter or mass can be created if enough energy is applied to some volume of space. This means one can literally make up something out of air. In fact, in the micro world, we see things are created from nothing all the time. This reminds us of the sayings in the Infinite Life Sutra. The sutra says, all the things that are needed by the people in the Pure Land will be in abundance with no lacking. All the adorned things, such as palaces and beautifully decorated clothing, the fragrant flowers, the banners and umbrellas, will come forth just as one has wished or one has needed for. If a man wishes to take food, the 7 precious bowls and containers, which contain 100 kinds of food and drinks that are of all different tastes, will naturally appear in front of him and are filled to the brim. After eating, the food, drinks, and containers will all disappear, and to appear again when it's time for lunch. This is the sayings from the Infinite Life Sutra. And we know a physical justification of this behavior in the Pure Land is that people in the Pure Land possesses highly advanced scientific power, so that they create things out of energy if they need them, and then convert these things back to energy after they use them. And the next topic is that about the origin of the universe. In the quantum world, we see things appearing out of nothing all the time. Here, a quantum is referred to as the smallest possible unit of energy. The universe may have done the same thing, appearing out of nothing. Dr. Stan Odenwald said, when physicists said nothing, they were being playful with the English language, because we often think of the vacuum as being empty or nothing. In fact, physics now know full well that the vacuum is far from nothing. So before the formation of the universe, there was even no time or space or even vacuum. So the primary state of the pre-universe period was far from being the kind of nothingness we might have in mind. As Stan Odenwald acknowledges, we don't have a full mathematical theory for describing this state yet, but it was probably multidimensional. The nothingness that gave rise to the present universe was not nothing, but it was not anything like the kinds of something we can think of today. We now have no words to describe it, and the ones that we borrow from the Oxford English Dictionary are based on the wrong physical insight. Buddha taught that the original state of the universe, referred as the true self-nature, neither comes from somewhere nor goes anywhere. It is neither continuous or separate. It is neither dirty nor clean. It neither increases nor decreases. So as you can see, this explanation of the nature of the universe is better than that proposed by the space scientists. But despite this, the pre-universe state, or what scientists call nothingness, is still obscure and incomprehensible to most of us. Let us put it aside for now and look at what happened at the moment of the formation of the universe. The widely accepted theory about the formation of the universe is the so-called the Big Bang theory. However, the theory is still being questioned, both in its detail and its essential correctness. We can now obtain some insights from this theory and don't have to accept the theory in its entirety. According to the Big Bang, our universe was created somewhere between 10 to 15 billion years ago, from a cosmic explosion that threw matter in all directions. Before the explosion, there was no space and no time. Such a state is so removed from anything we know. Even the laws that govern the universe become totally obscure to scientists themselves. And Buddha used the terms unthinkable and inexpressible to describe this state. In fact, this state is beyond our comprehension. Dr. Stan Odenwald admits what this means to us may never be fully understood. But the Buddha did not imply that we should not attempt to understand or observe this state of the universe. The method we should use is not to think. That is, through meditation or deep concentration, without any wandering thought, In the deep concentration, there will be no obstacles. And at this moment, the true nature of ourselves and the universe come forth. This level is the so-called pure state of enlightenment. So how big was our universe when it was born? According to scientists' conclusion, the size of the universe at that moment was equal to 10 to the power of negative 33 centimeters. That means it is 0.000000, there are 33 zeros, 1 centimeters. Such a number is so small that it's merely a mathematical concept and can never be understood by our common sense. Let us consider this analogy. Suppose the thinnest body hair on our body has a diameter of 0.01 millimeters. If this pre-universe particle can somehow be stored into our thin hair, how many particles can you store across the hair's diameter? What I mean, across the diameter, not along the length of the hair. With some simple calculation, you can see that you can store 1 million of trillions of particles across the diameter of your single hair. It is amazing. Our infinite universe once contained the same information as that tiny particle did. This information includes everything in the universe, including all the galaxies, the past, the present, and the future, including you and me. So it is so amazing. It is more amazing that your single hair can store so many universes across the diameter. So no wonder Buddha Shakyamuni told us there is no difference between the infinite and the infinitesimal. Incalculable number of universes can emerge from just one single pore. Another amazing phenomenon relates to the speed of the expansion from this tiny particle to a huge universe. Space scientists told us that the particle expanded at an incredibly high speed, that is 10 to the power of 59 times bigger in every second. That means within less than 1/1000th of a second, that particle had grown to a size bigger than our present solar system. The formation of our universe takes only 1 instant. This scientific finding verifies that what Buddha had taught. Buddha said the formation and extinction of the universes take only an instant. In short, the genesis of our entire universe is as follows. In the beginning, there was nothing. Then suddenly appears a tiny particle. This tiny particle takes an unimaginable short time to form our entire universe. Currently, scientists do not have meaningful explanation of this tiny particle and only have a subtle mathematical description. Precisely, Buddha Shakyamuni told us that this tiny particle is actually one's smallest wandering thought, rising from the pure mind. And instantly, this wandering thought forms our entire universe. Finally, when asked about the universe, other universe assigned from ours, Dr. Stan Odenwald answered, according to the general relativity, our universe represents everything, including all space, time, and galaxies. Other universes are of totally different space and time, completely outside our own space and time. Those universes do not now or ever will in the future have any physical contact with our universe. From our perspective, these other universes are literally on the other side of eternity and infinity from our perspective. So Buddha Shakyamuni also said that incalculable universes exist in numerous different dimensions, but we human beings are unable to see them because of our wandering thoughts, differentiations, and attachments. These things block our vision. When we let go our wandering thoughts, differentiation, and attachments, we will be able to clearly observe the entire universe and all the universes. Let me summarize the messages we have discussed so far. First, the distance and time are merely illusions. Under some conditions, the space and time can vanish. You can appear in many places at the same time. And you can also observe the past, the present, and the future at the same instant. Second, things can be created from nothing. Objects can appear from vacuum. Pure energy can be converted to mass, and vice versa. And finally, the origin of the universe is an extremely tiny particle that comes from nothing. It took an extremely short instant for this tiny particle to expand into such a huge universe. Despite the significant progress in modern cosmology and space science, the universe still remains extremely profound to human beings. The more phenomena the scientists discover, the more they realize that they knew so little about the universe. 3,000 years ago, Buddha Shakyamuni not only explained the true phenomena of this entire universe, but also showed us ways to attain the ultimate wisdom that will enable us to see it all very clearly. As Venerable Master Jin Kong said, it is unfortunate that our modern scientists did not have a chance to study Buddhism. Otherwise, modern science would have even more advanced achievement. And we strongly believe that as science advances, more facts taught by Buddha Shakyamuni will be proven. Finally, I want to quote a statement made by Albert Einstein, the father of modern science. Einstein said, quote, the religion of the future will be a cosmic religion. It should transcend a personal God and avoid dogmas and theology, covering both the natural and the spiritual. It should be based on a religion sense, arising from the experience of all things, natural or spiritual, and a meaningful unity. Buddhism answers this description. If there is any religion that will cope with modern scientific needs, it would be Buddhism." End quote. And finally, I'd like to express my gratitude to Venerable Master Jin Kong and the Pureland Learning College for granting me this precious opportunity to speak here. We are also grateful to the space scientists for their hard work in their research, which enhance our understanding about the truth of the universe. What I have said today is limited by what I have learned in the area of cosmology. But the purpose of my presentation today is to trigger our thinking and to discuss the truth about the universe. If there is any error in my presentation, please kindly point it out to me. I would greatly appreciate your comments and suggestions. Thank you for listening.